Hey everyone, Ryan here. Another RDM update, and taking a quick break from shipping to handle some controversy that I stirred up by doing some of the shipping already. A few things involving the crank and these bolt-on weights. I'm actually pretty happy that so many people are following along enough to really understand this change, and I'm glad that people have strong opinions. I think it's pretty cool. Another bit of controversy, more on YouTube than Facebook. Join both YouTube and Facebook groups. Well, not groups, but just follow the YouTube channel. Is the case weight. See how this one's thinner and has fins, this one's blocky, and there's the cast case. And how are you going to balance these? There's just so many controversial things, and I'm surprised nobody's talking about the 9-tooth. I did send out 9-tooths too with a lot of the cranks, but also different ways of handling how everything's been late and my changes here, how the shop's dynamic. I want to address that too. So for starters, let's start with the crank. That's the main thing I think people are gonna want to watch this video for. These latest cranks, they came out fantastic. They really did. It would have been nice if they all had these tapped holes in them, and then we could all bolt on the weights, or you can run them without the weights. These little tapped holes don't hurt anything, and that would have been the best case scenario. But here's what kept happening. Look at this beautiful crank here, and I don't even know what to do with it, to be honest. I got a bunch of them like this. On the very last hole, tap broke off in there, so I couldn't even run the chamfer tool and all. Anyways, what do I do with a crank like this? Put it together and then somebody's got to contaminate it by grinding and drilling or doing whatever they need to do to get that tap out of there? Do I need to spend who knows how long getting that broken tap out? So that kept happening, and that's what happened after my fourth tap. I'm pretty stubborn, but after 4 taps, I even took a break for the day at that point, and I had to really think about what's going on. And even tapping these holes in the center, I was getting very poor tap life. So it just, it wasn't really in the cards to continue on with the plan to tap these. And the reason why is because the hardness of these blanks, it's harder than I've ever made them, significantly harder. And that makes it so the press fit actually is significantly, noticeably stronger. These go together much stiffer. It's a lot harder to pump the press. It's a lot harder to straighten them. And this is really the number one thing. Because the failure mode that we're trying to fight, the failure that plagues these engines, is at high RPM, this crank kind of gets tweaked, usually slightly unevenly, and it just starts killing that bearing. It causes friction, it kills power, it causes vibration, because everything's kind of, like, these whole weights go kind of tilted. It either pinches or opens up, and these whole weights just vibrate the engine and foams up the carburetor. All sorts of bad things happen, and that can actually lead us into talking about the case. But yeah, remember that. So anyways, the higher hardness, although it prevented us from having these tapped holes, it makes for a better, stronger crank that can make more power. Now, why did we add these in the first place? Let's start with weights. You can see that one, a hefty, almost 1,500. 1,066. And you can see these add another like almost 300. So, these add weight. They have pockets inside them. You can fill them with stuff to add more weight or change the balance. Like people mentioned, these are about 40% balance with an average piston. So you can adjust the balance there. You can add more rotational inertia. Now, the bigger piston sizes, when you have a saw piston and it's larger, it's actually still about the same weight as our normal pistons. The big problem are these big bore 52, 54 bore Minarellis. You know, and that genuinely is a problem. Another thing that can be done is you can load it with carbide. See, there's carbide, and there's a slightly larger piece, but high-speed steel. It's significantly lighter. So these cranks are made out of basically this type of metal. So what you can do is load carbide opposite of the balance holes, and it actually is like the same as adding more balance holes. So that's another way of doing it, and it adds rotational inertia. Another way is, let's say you have a crank like this. I can still supply the weights. You know, it has these thin little lips, so it would be good for actually brazing. I think these could be brazed on. You know, I would do like a braze here, and then opposite over here braze. You know, to basically keep the brazing away from that pin. You don't want to heat that up too much, but with the oxyacetylene torch, you can concentrate the heat enough. I wouldn't use MAP gas, but you could braze these together. I don't know if people are going to be willing to do that, but I may be willing to try it. Another way is people could drill and tap the holes after all. I mean, I was tapping these pretty deep, but if you just go a little bit, even if the tap breaks, you can get this broken tap out and finish it by hand. You can finish them all by hand. So these still could be drilled and tapped. I might try to provide that as a service if I can get it going reliably. So we have options with the cranks. At the end of the day, I had to do something. And here's where we're at. Now, I do have actually a good amount of the generation people were expecting, where they do have the holes drilled and tapped that are a little bit softer. But those are available, so if you want to send back your crank and get one of those, that's an option. So we have different ways of solving this. Anybody who's not happy with their crank, they can send it back, get what they want. Okay, so that's with the cranks. Now with the cases, I mentioned in the other video that I'm going heavier. And that if we were to fill this space by gluing in a ring, like a plate that's ring shaped, to make it so that this type of crank would fit in there without having air gaps, it would increase the weight of the case, and I said that's a good thing. Let's go back to the scale. That's 820. That should be like what, 1300, 1420. So 600 more. And that's like about 1200 more. That's a heavy case, almost 2000. So if and when the crank gets a little bit out of whack, or the balance isn't perfect for whatever RPM you're at, you know, of course you can mess with the crank. Even a magnet being slightly off balance, you'll feel it. So to combat that, and you also have vibrations from the rod and from the compression ratio slowing down and then speeding up the engine. So all that vibration, sometimes you can deal with it, but for the most part, there's always going to be some vibration that you can't get rid of. A way to suck up the vibration, minimize it, is just weight, pure mass. And this fat, thick engine case, it will suck up some of the vibration, and it will make a noticeable difference. Now, does that mean that these are junk because they're lighter? No, it has other advantages. I mean, it cools. And I mean, what's worse, a hot case or a case that vibrates a little bit? That's a close call. I guess it depends on the tune, to be honest. But these are not junk. Somebody said they're leaky. I don't know where they got their leaky from. I mean, if yours leaks, something's wrong with it. And we can work on that or talk about it. You know, sometimes maybe the surfaces could be too shiny, and I do personally take sandpaper and kind of I dull the gasket surfaces, and even the case surfaces where they mate, I go and rub it with like 120 grit right before putting any RTV, and make sure everything bites. You know, these could be too shiny. But yeah, I don't know why they said that. I'm gonna ask them. It's a good customer. But also, if you want to change in cases, if you're not happy with your case, we can work something out. But no, they're not junk. It's little things, you know, like the case being heavier. It's not really, I mean, the end of the world. But I do think that if you just glue in these plates in here, it will further reduce vibration and it'll make for a good engine. Now with these weights, in case people need to get up to speed of why these weights also, you know, what they help for. As far as peak power goes, there's no difference. Adding this weight isn't going to change peak power. The weights change low RPM performance. And another way to kind of do the same thing is just lower the compression ratio a little bit. Because that's really what a lot of this is about, is your compression ratio and just how hard it is to compress, and it makes the engine violently slow down and speed up at low RPM, and you can feel that. So yeah, that's that with the cases and the cranks. Another thing, I've been calling customers, and it's taken a while, you know, going through everyone's needs, and a lot of people have complicated problems they need help with. But I'm finding, talking to a few people want help putting their engines together. I mean, they waited a long time, but now they also want to put it together and have it done professionally. I'm finding a lot of guys don't want to assemble all of this, and they do want somebody very professional like myself, if possible. Now, it's been a while since I've offered this kind of service, but being that I have these machines, but I don't have power to them, I do have the time to assemble engines. Now, something I want to do to give back, because some of these guys, you know, like they've been waiting a long time, is if you've been waiting a very, very long time, you can go with these green prices, which are about half price. The blue prices are still a discounted price, but it's not like the green price. We can go through it real quick. You know, if I assembled your short block, which I'd clean all the parts, deburr them and clean them again, and I'd check the crank. I'd throw it on there and make sure it's well within 1,000ths on each end. Then I'd mock it up dry, you know, put it together, and just basically make sure the squish is going to end up perfect. And if I need to, I would order parts or shims or modify anything that needs to get modified. I'll still have, you can see up there, that knee mill. I'm going to get that powered up this weekend. And I'll be able to do, you know, deck modifications, anything really needed to dial in squish. And then I'll do a final assembly and make sure it's all sealed up and cleaned, and that would be $225 for the, you know, the lowest discount, like you've been waiting for parts for a long time, and then just normal discount $380, $250. And I'm gonna put this on the store later tonight. I have a lot of maintenance to do on the store anyways, as far as taking things down, adjusting inventories. I'm giving away a lot of things for free with people that waited already, like sending out a lot of these sprockets, so, and other things. So I gotta adjust the inventory. And then if you want me to install the ignition, I'm going to typically set it to 14 degrees base timing. Certain engines, I might recommend something different, but for the most part, that's what I'm going to be doing. That would be $50. Add it all together, that's $275. If you want me to install a clutch system, any clutch, doesn't matter which it is, whose it is, it's another $75. And that would come out to $350. And that's the discounted price. You can see my normal discount, you know, this is like you've been waiting a long time. Yeah, this is like the really lowest I could possibly go. So you can get basically an engine built for $350, and you know, then the same prices are here in blue. And you can see it goes up to about $600 even at the discounted price. And it usually does take me a little over a day, and some parts, some shims, to put an engine together. And I wish I could do it cheaper, but you know, this is a professional service. I do have overhead. These are low prices. And like I said, I have a few guys I'm going to try to help out. I had to come up with this real quick because these guys want answers of how I can help them, or they're trying to get a game plan together. And that's what this is all about. It'll be first come, first serve. So the first people to order this service and you know, successfully send me all parts, they're gonna get their engines first. I'm gonna try to keep it less than 2 week turnaround, and I do need the 2 weeks in case I see this step if I need to order parts, you know. But first things first, as soon as I get all the parts and we're locked in, I'm gonna quickly clean the burr, check the crank, and mock it up. And that way I can right away order parts, and if I need to modify parts. Now I do have access to other machine shops in the area, so anything that needs to get done, we can get it done. I have a big inventory. And then yeah, you'll be good to go. So that's that. We're gonna be basically, yeah, it's I guess big news for some people. We're gonna be offering engine building services. Now, I was thinking of throwing together some engines and then putting them for sale, but I think the right thing to do would be to see if there's any customers out there that want that as a service and they already have parts that they purchased from me, or you know, they can actually be parts from somebody else. I am willing to build an engine that uses all cast parts. I can, you know, I'll do it the same process. If you just want a race spec engine, we can do it that way. I do not offer porting, but as part of this service, this clean and deburr, I do go through the cylinder and piston, and I get rid of sharp edges where there shouldn't be sharp edges. I make sure everything's clean. I do my special little prep stuff, just like it's one of my race engines, my personal engines. So if there's anybody that, you know, and if anybody wants to assemble these engines themselves, don't be afraid. I do have some videos and some stuff out there to help. If you damage one of these parts putting the engine together and I can tell nothing's been run, 9 times out of 10 I will go and swap the part out for you with no extra charge. So don't be afraid, have fun. I think that's it for this video, and also keep an eye out. Probably later tonight I'm going to be going through the whole website, and I painstakingly went through my inventory, and I'm going to kind of adjust things, and I do desperately need to do that. I need to do it now so I can stay on top of shipping, and I don't, you know, this big round of shipping actually ended up running out of a lot of stuff or running low, so I need to have that be reflected on my website and make sure I don't oversell things. Yeah, that's it everyone. Thanks for your patience. So again, if you're not happy with the crank, hopefully you've seen what we went over in the beginning. You know, take some time to think about this and let me know what you want to do. If you want to send it back and get a crank that can take all the bolts and get the counterweights, or if you got one of these and you just want to the counterweight set so you can try to braze it on, let me know. Eric Howell, and of course I said it myself, said I need to make the water jet plates available so we can glue them in. That's right, I do need to do that, and I am going to do that immediately. That's also on the to-do list for today. Get these listed, ordered, and so people can finally finish all these engines. And yeah, I want to get some feedback from this. I'm going to post this hopefully before I have a chance to list it on the website, and if anybody has anything to say about all this, please speak up. It's been great so far. I'm really loving all the feedback, even if it's not all super positive. It helps me. And yeah, I mean, if people do order this and people do want me to assemble some engines, that would help me a lot, because I need to figure out somehow how I'm going to bring in income. You know, at the end of the day, this is a job. I do need to figure out how I'm going to make money. And if I'm not running machines, I'm going to need to find a way to spend my time in a way that makes money. I wouldn't mind putting these engines together, so let me know if that's something somebody wants. I kind of want to know pretty much right away, because I have a lot of hardware to order, like the nuts, bolts, seals, and all that, and I want to know, am I ordering packs of 100 bolts or packs of 1,000? And it's a big price difference. If I'm not going to be building a lot of engines, it doesn't necessarily make sense to buy 1,000 of these cover bolts, you know what I mean, and 1,000 of, You get the idea. So yeah, that's that, guys. Talk to you.